Hey everybody, Sam here.
And Angela, and welcome to our channel.
Welcome to,
Part 2.
Yeah, part 2. It's been a couple of days, I forget.
Welcome to part 2 of putting electricity in our sheds. The last time we saw you, we dug the trench with the trencher, and we got the wires laid in the trench, and then we started to fill it in a little bit. Today, Sam is going to take over from that and keep working and get us hooked up.
Yep.
So, let's go.
And we'll see you back here at the end, so stick around. In case it's not obvious, I want to go ahead and make this disclaimer that I am not a pro. Take what you see here as entertainment, possibly a little dose of education, but it is by no means a how-to or something that you should watch to teach yourself and kind of follow along with. Just enjoy the show. Don't take me as a teacher on this stuff. A little bit of stuff to move out of the way. Always. Alright, here inside our storage building, this is going to be a multi-purpose building. Half of it is food pantry. The other half behind me is dedicated studio space for a new YouTube channel that, well, I kind of prematurely announced, I guess, because I'm not even finished building this space. Either way, it's going to be a place to test and evaluate off-grid technologies, solar, wind. We can't do hydro. We don't have water out here. Not like creek and river water. So, anyway, I gotta think ahead to that this is gonna be the incoming power panel, but there's also gonna be other stuff to the left. Therefore, this power panel is gonna go probably about in this area, about, what is that, 7 feet off of the corner. Not really dead center in the building, but over here enough that I still have room on this entire back wall right here to mount boards of, let's say, solar equipment. Things such as that. Have it here to display, test, and make videos on. So I'm going to start off by drilling the 2-inch hole through the floor. That's what the conduit's going to run through. And it'll also show us where we need to run our wires up from outside. Now that the hole is drilled, I'm going to take this metal straight edge, just like I did in my workshop, and push it down through the hole. That way we can see outside where we need to dig our trench to match and line up. All right, Elijah, need the Tonka trucks moved.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to help us much.
If I get slow, to speed me up in editing.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
So the trenches are totally done, thanks to my nephew and a little bit of a bribery. He came over with his shovels and his mattock and pickaxe, which was most useful, especially since our ground is still frozen like 2-3 inches in certain areas. Weird. So we were able to get that knocked out in a couple of hours worth of work, and now I can move on to the next step. I am inside our storage building here, and I have in my hand the load center or the breaker box that's going to be going in this building. I'm going to mount it up here on the wall, but I also need to make sure I line up my conduit from the bottom straight down to the hole that I've already drilled, but also add another one and add another hole through the floor. You guys will see this. So the first thing to do is to actually knock out some knockouts, or punch some punch outs whatever you want to call it. I'm going to do one here on this side, 2-inch, and then on the bottom, this large one, 2-inch as well. Because I have an incoming and an outgoing with the large gauge wiring, so I need two 2-inch conduit connections and knockouts. Anytime you're running conduit into a breaker box, you have to have your threaded connector, your lock nut or lock washer, but then you also need to have this additional piece. A lot of DIYers don't do these, or maybe don't know what they're for. This goes on after the fact, and its sole purpose in life is to give a nice rounded edge so you don't cut your wire insulation on the sharp edges of the conduit. So that's what this plastic ring is for. Otherwise, the metal lock ring is really what cinches it together and holds everything tight to the box. Just dry fitting for now. I'll glue all these in just a little bit. But this is going to allow me to get the location of this box to go straight down and drill another hole through the floor down there. And let's hope it doesn't hit a floor joist. Although, we all know how that's probably going to go. That joist right here. So, I don't know. Let's see. I'll put my head in the way, that way you guys don't see nothing. How's that? I have this dry fit for now because when it comes time to feed the wire through, it's going to be a lot easier to be able to take the conduit inside, out of the way, or at least out of the box, and help pull and fish the wires through. But for now, everything is done in here, everything's cut to fit, the load center is mounted on the wall, and I can move on to the next spot, which will probably be the soap shed, I guess. Back in the house is really, really muddy. I'm hoping it dries up some before I get back there. Yeah, right. We're at the back side of the soap shed now, and what you're seeing here is an outdoor rated load center or breaker box, sub panel, whatever you want to call it. This is the one that has been on the shed ever since we converted it from a storage building to Angela's soap shed, and it's also one that just rode over here from our North Carolina property, happy as you like. So all the power is turned off to this. We'll go ahead and unhook some wires, do our knockouts, and then put on our boxes. I need to be a little more careful with this knockout on this box because this is a 2.5-inch max capacity, so I only want to take out this inside ring. If you're doing this and you happen to tear it all out and tear out bigger than what you need, they do make reducing washers you can go buy. So it's not the end of the world if you do it, it just means another trip to the hardware store. I'm about to knock that off, aren't I? Yep. Yep. So I ran into a pickle with the load center box here inside the storage building. I mounted it, we cut our wires and everything, but when it came time to hook them up, I was short. I did not leave myself enough length, or we dug the trench too deep. I don't know. I was about 18 inches shorter than I really wanted to be. So I had to think up of a solution. I didn't really have the option to extend the wires. Everything had been connected and backfilled, and so my solution was to unhook the panel, lower it down, but also flip it over upside down so that the wires coming in from the house could go straight to their lugs and not have to go up, wrap around, or do any kind of fancy stuff that way. So the panel is shorter than what I wanted it to be, but that's okay. It is still above 3 feet off the ground. It's going to be fine. It's just not exactly where I wanted it. But hey, when you come up with a problem, you got to come up with a solution, and that was it. Otherwise, wiring this panel together is a good example of what it takes to do the others. You have the 4 wires coming into the box, or in the event of the house, it's leaving the box. Basically, you hook up your ground to your ground lugs, which is the green wire. The black wire with the white stripe is your neutral. You hook it up to your neutral lugs. And then the two black wires are your hots. It's your two phases of power. Each one of those carries 120 volts in split phase, so when they're together, as you need them, you have 240 volts. That also is just as easy as connect it to the two different lugs or to the two different leads of a double pole breaker. In the sense of this box, as it leaves and goes to the soap shed, it's hooked into a double pole 60 amp breaker to then power the shed. I don't want to say that wiring is super simple, but honestly, just keeping the colors to themselves, following ins and outs, and making sure things match, it is pretty easy. But of course, this is not something that you're going to want to do if you're not comfortable with it. Again, that's why this is not a how-to video. It's just a, show and tell. Come along with me as I do some work. And I'm just not going to take the responsibility of teaching you how to do something like this, because I'm not a licensed electrician and I'm not really going to do that. This load center or breaker box in my workshop is not large enough to accept a 2-inch LB box. So I had to go and buy a 1.5 inch. What I'm also having to do is step down or step up from 1.5 to 2 inch so it attaches to my conduit I already have. And then also put in these little sleeves or couplers so that everything can attach properly. I'm going to go ahead and glue this all together while it's here, and then I'll put it in place on the box next. I have the grocery bag down so that I hopefully don't get glue on anything I don't want glue on. Stuff falling everywhere. Ugh. The house of cards I've built, huh? Alright, my last thing to do, fish my wires through my LB box into the panel, attach it to my lugs, and we're good to juice it up. And with that, I am done connecting all of the load centers or breaker boxes for this project. It feels good to have it finally done. This is a couple of days later because I had to get some fittings for this and some more parts and stuff like that, but that's really the way it goes with these kind of projects. Before I turn on the power here in my workshop, well, okay, my workshop is running off grid. This big battery box up here is what's giving me lights. So that's how I can say the power's off with power obviously being on. This whole section is dead. There's no power coming to it. So I want to take a second to explain kind of what's going on with the panels. This one essentially is the same as the one on the soap shed, is the same as the one in the juice box green storage building. And so I can point, kind of show and tell, and just know that this stuff kind of replicates overall. This is what's known as a sub panel. This is not the main meter base. It's not the panel where our meter is attached. So this is considered a sub panel. As such, in our area where we live, you are required to run 4 wires to any sub panel. A hot, a neutral, and a ground. You cannot run 3, 2 hots and a neutral. You must run 4. In addition, you have to use grounding rods and ground wire. It's this copper thing you see here and along the wall at every single sub panel location. This is a 6-gauge copper wire that goes out, down through the floor, and attaches to a ground rod that's been hammered in the ground 8 to 10 feet. I forget how long it is, but it's ludicrous. It takes a while, but you got to put it there for safety. As far as power coming in, you have 2 hots. You have 120 volt, 120 volt together. They give you 240 volt or split phase power as you need for residential use. You also have a neutral, and then you have a ground. Wiring up sub panels are pretty easy. You put your hots on the 2 legs at the top where your breakers attach. The neutral goes on the bar that is insulated from the case, and then the ground goes on the bar that's usually attached to the case. Any panel you get is going to have instructions. You're going to want to follow those exactly to a T. They're going to tell you how to install it, what goes where, and whether or not to use bonding screws. Since this is a sub panel, I am not bonding neutral to ground. The bonding takes place at the meter base at the first part of entry, and that is why we run the ground wire. Obviously this panel was already installed in my workshop and I had it set up to run off grid. I had a large 50 amp plug that went into this large battery pack, came in and fed both legs and neutral and ground that way. So converting it to this was pretty simple. Take out that wire, run the new ones, and connect them into their places. That's also why you see a group of 4 outlets right here down below. This was my easy way to give myself basically a power station, a place where I can plug up things and disperse it around my shop, because I haven't yet run outlet switches and everything officially in my shop. This has been kind of power central, and then I run heavy duty extension cords where I need to for the tools. While I had this going and setting up, I went ahead and added by far my #1 thing I'm excited about. That is the 240 volt outlet to connect up my electric heater. That is going to allow me to have this as a heated space again, which is extremely important for the different types of lasers I have, the glues, the finishes, and everything of the sort, as well as just general creature comfort in the winter months. I'm not going to go over this kind of stuff in installation on this channel. That's going to be saved for my workshop channel, which is always linked down below in all of our videos. To do kind of a silent connection. If you are interested in workshop stuff, it'll point you there. You can learn more about this whole building we're in and kind of see stuff evolve from there. But I did want to take the time while we had this panel open to kind of talk about, show you, and at least point at a box and hopefully give you some information, I guess. Alright guys, that's it for this project. All of the labor is done. All of our panels are wired up. Our buildings are electrified, which, I mean, really, for usability and differences in the world, only applies to Angela's soap shed. I haven't moved any of the stuff in my workshop from my off-grid system to this, and our storage building, aka the juice box, has nothing in there either. It's still running off of its extension cord. But the hard work is done. The official installation of our load centers is done, and that is a great milestone and feels great. To confirm and check my work, I have a Klein Tools RT250 outlet tester. So let's see what it reads. With these outlets here, it should tell me that my hot is correct, my neutral is correct, and my ground is fully bonded from here all the way back to the house. Well, okay, here to the ground right outside, and then also to the house. Nice. Green is go. So I've been doing this by myself for a couple of days now. I think it's time to go grab Angela, let her take a look-see, take her to the soap shed effectively, because that's her space, and let her enjoy the benefits of unlimited power. Pretty much unlimited.
Another 10 I gotta make.
It's so bright. Your workshop has windows and everything. It's crazy bright. It's not your workshop, is it? It's a soap shed. Soap shed? Soap shack?
Soap shack.
Soap shack. It's a shack of soap. We're shock attacking some soap. Well, as you guys can see, it is an extremely bright room that we are in now. Pretty fancy paint job. There's even some artwork behind my big old head. This is not Sam's workshop. For those who don't know, tell them where we are and what this place is.
We are in my soap shack, which is my workshop, and with full power, which I've not had in probably a good 8 to 10 months. I'll be able to use my hot water heater again. Right now I've had to make soap and wash all the dishes and everything with cold water, and while that sounds like, oh, it's actually kind of needed because I'm using oils. And if you've ever tried to like wash oily stuff off in cold water, it's really hard.
Yeah, it is.
So
I was shaking my head just to be your support. I don't know that I've been out here washing the cold, oily things or whatever, but I'm here for support.
And we've finally gotten to winter here where everything actually freezes. And so having your hands in the freezing cold water doing the dishes is not fun either.
No, definitely not. Not with the amount of dishes that you end up washing and for how long.
Yeah.
When you make your soap, you have how many crock pots?
6 crock pots, which also means 6 measuring cups and stuff like that goes with it. So
lots of stuff.
So one of the big motivators for us going ahead and doing the power and everything was the last cold snap we had. Something happened with the electric plugged up into the house. It got unconnected in here. The heater went off, and so my water heater exploded. It froze and busted apart. I think Sam will show a little clip here. We woke up one morning and we had a nice waterfall coming out the front of my soap shack. So the floor got nice and clean. We were able to mop it all out, put out fans. It dried up just fine. I usually keep everything off the floor anyway, so nothing was really damaged other than the water heater. So we got it switched out today and I'm ready to be back in business.
Well, speaking of business, I better get out of your business. Get out of here and let you start making some soap. This is going to round out this video. If you guys had any questions or comments, you can leave them for us down below. Again, not a professional electrician, so it's more of an entertainment thing, kind of look and see, and you can see at least how we have wired up everything and how it works for us, and maybe get some ideas for you too.
Well guys, thanks for coming along. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next time on the Homestead.
See you guys.
Bye.
So also for power, you also. I previously used this with a large 50 amp, where is it at? Where is it at? It's not over here.
Got the lines laid in.
Wires, you know, blah blah blah. There must be work going on in this building. There's all sorts of noise.
Ah! Putting in our electricity for our accessories.
Sheds.
Yeah.
Now. Keep rolling. Keep rolling. Roll with it. I was messing around cleaning the burrs off the inside of the pipe and kind of did that. It kind of reminds me of a tune from the 80s, 90s. You know it? Leave me a comment down below. Hopefully you hear what I hear. There's no telling about that one though.